The stars did not explode all at once. They began to go dark quietly, one by one. At first, the galaxy thought it was a natural event. A failed reactor. A star collapse. A bad warp accident. But then another system went silent. Then another. And another. Within weeks, entire sectors stopped answering. Trade routes were empty. Patrol ships vanished. Long-range scanners showed only cold space where bright worlds once lived. The first clear image came from a damaged probe drifting near the edge of known space. The recording was broken and full of static, but it showed enough. A fleet. Black ships. Huge. Smooth. No visible engines. No lights. They moved like shadows across a burning planet. Energy beams fell from orbit. Cities disappeared in white flashes. Oceans turned into clouds of steam. The planet cracked, then split apart like fragile glass. The probe feed ended with silence. They called them the Devourers. No one knew where they came from. No one could track their origin. They did not send messages. They did not respond to signals. They only moved forward. And everything in their path died. The Varelian Empire sent its Grand Armada. 5,000 warships formed a shining wall of shields and plasma cannons. Their commanders were confident. No force had ever broken their line. The battle lasted 17 minutes. Long-range observers watched in horror as Devourer ships pierced the Varelian formation. Human-shaped. No. Machine. No one could tell. Their hulls absorbed fire like water absorbs rain. Then red lances of energy cut through the Varelian ships one by one. When it ended, space was full of debris. The Devourers did not slow down. The Kirin Collective tried a different plan. They triggered ancient star weapons hidden inside dying suns. Entire stars were forced into violent explosions to stop the enemy fleet. The Devourers flew through the fire. Their ships survived inside supernova storms. That was the moment fear truly spread. Emergency signals filled the Galactic Council chamber. Leaders from hundreds of species gathered. Proud civilizations that once argued over trade now spoke with shaking voices. More systems had fallen. More billions were gone. Maps of the galaxy were updated in real time. Red marks spread like a disease. Each red light meant a world erased. Silence grew heavy in the chamber. All hope was fading. Then an old council member said a word that made many uncomfortable. Humans. The chamber stirred. Humans were young compared to most galactic races. Loud. Direct. Aggressive. 2 centuries ago, they had left the council after refusing to follow peaceful defense rules. They believed in overwhelming force. If attacked, they did not defend. They destroyed. Many species called them dangerous. Some called them unstable. But now, maybe unstable was exactly what the galaxy needed. A message was sent to Earth. Hours passed with no answer. Meanwhile, 3 more systems went dark. Then finally, a reply arrived. No greeting. No formal speech. Just 3 simple words. We are coming. Confusion filled the chamber. Coming with what? A few fleets. A rescue mission. Sensors near the outer rim suddenly detected massive warp signatures. At first, observers thought it was an error. The readings were too large. Then space itself began to ripple. One ship emerged. Then another. Then hundreds. They were unlike any vessels the galaxy had seen. Human Dreadnoughts. Each one was the size of a small moon. Their hulls were black and layered with thick armor. Heavy weapon arrays lined their sides. Gravity distortions formed around them like a storm. They did not broadcast threats. They did not send warnings. They moved in perfect formation. Cold. Disciplined. Ready. Across the void, Devourer fleets shifted course. For the first time since their arrival, the destroyers changed direction. They were heading toward the humans. The galaxy watched in fear. Two unstoppable forces were about to meet. And in the dark between dying stars, humanity did not pray. Humanity prepared for war. The galaxy held its breath. The Devourers changed course without hesitation. Their black ships turned as one and moved toward the human formation. There was no signal between them. No visible command. Yet they acted with perfect unity. Across thousands of observation posts, sensors focused on one point in space. The meeting place. Human dreadnoughts advanced in complete silence. They did not scatter. They did not rush. They formed a wide wall of steel and dark armor, stretching across millions of kilometers. Behind that wall, smaller human warships took position, cruisers, carriers, and support craft. But they stayed hidden in the shadow of the giants. The Devourers arrived first. Their fleet was larger than expected. Long black shapes slid out of warp, one after another, until space itself looked crowded with death. Their hulls reflected no light. They seemed to swallow the stars around them. No one spoke in the council chamber. Then the distance between fleets closed. 1,000,000 kilometers. 500,000. Weapon systems across both sides powered up. Energy readings spiked so high that smaller observation satellites shut down from overload. Still, no messages were exchanged. Then the first shot came. A Devourer ship fired a red beam, thicker than a city tower. It struck the front human dreadnought directly. The galaxy expected it to split apart like the Varelian ships. Instead, the beam hit a glowing blue shield. The shield cracked. But it held. A second beam struck. Then a third. The shield flickered violently. Observers thought it would collapse. But the human ship did not retreat. It moved forward. Then it fired. From its side opened massive cannon ports. White energy gathered, brighter than a star. When the weapon discharged, space bent around it. The blast tore through 3 Devourer ships in a single line. They did not explode. They simply broke apart, sliced into burning fragments. Shock spread through every watching world. The Devourers adjusted instantly. Dozens of their ships surged forward, firing in perfect coordination. Red beams crossed space like deadly threads. 3 human dreadnoughts lost shields. One was struck directly. Its armor glowed red. Cracks spread across its surface. For a moment, it looked like it would fall. Instead of retreating, it accelerated. It ran straight into a Devourer battleship. The collision created a flash so bright that sensors went blind. When vision returned, both ships were gone. But the Devourer formation had a hole in it. Human cruisers rushed through that opening. Missile waves filled space. Explosions rippled across the Black Fleet. Still, the Devourers did not panic. They adapted. Smaller hunter ships broke away and targeted the human support lines. 2 carriers were destroyed within seconds. Hundreds of fighters vanished. The humans did not shout. They did not scatter. They changed formation. Dreadnoughts shifted position, protecting weaker ships. Coordinated strikes focused on one Devourer target at a time, tearing apart the enemy from the edges inward. For the first time in recorded history, Devourer ships began to retreat. Not flee. But pull back. The movement was slight, almost careful. Yet it was clear. They had met resistance. Real resistance. Hours passed. The battlefield became a storm of fire and metal. Broken ships drifted like dead moons. Radiation clouds filled entire sectors. Finally, the Devourer fleet disengaged. They jumped to warp almost together, vanishing into darkness. Silence fell. Human ships did not chase. They regrouped. Damage reports streamed in. Casualties were heavy. Entire crews lost. Massive ships crippled. But they were still there. Still standing. Across the galaxy, a single truth spread faster than light. The Devourers could bleed. And humanity had just made them bleed for the first time. But deep inside human command channels, one message moved quietly between admirals. The Devourers had not used their strongest weapons. This was only a test. And the real war was still coming. The galaxy celebrated too early. Across hundreds of worlds, leaders called it a turning point. News networks replayed the battle again and again. Images of broken Devourer ships drifted across every screen. For the first time, hope returned. But inside the human flagship Iron Resolve, there was no celebration. Admiral Kale stood in a silent command hall, watching battle data scroll across a giant tactical display. His face showed no pride. Only focus. They were studying us, he said quietly. Around him, officers exchanged uneasy looks. The Devourers had retreated. But they had not fled in panic. Their movements were controlled. Organized. Calculated. Long-range probes began sending new reports. The Devourer fleet had split into smaller groups. Instead of charging directly, they were moving in strange patterns. They avoided heavy human patrol zones. They targeted weak systems, small colonies, mining stations, communication relays. They were cutting supply lines. The enemy had learned. Within days, human scouts reported something even more disturbing. The Devourer ships were changing. New vessels appeared at the edge of sensor range. Their shapes were different. Sharper. Larger. Their outer hulls showed layered energy nodes, similar to human shield emitters. They adapted our shield frequency, one engineer whispered during the emergency briefing. Silence filled the room. It should not have been possible. Most civilizations needed decades to reverse engineer human technology. The Devourers had done it in days. Then came the second battle. This time, the Devourers did not wait in open space. They attacked near a red giant star, using its radiation to hide their power signatures. When Human Dreadnoughts arrived, half the enemy fleet was invisible to standard scans. The ambush was brutal. Red beams struck from unexpected angles. One dreadnought lost its shield instantly. Another suffered direct engine damage. 3 cruisers were destroyed before human forces understood what was happening. The Devourers had changed tactics. They no longer attacked head-on. They hunted. Human commanders adjusted quickly. Countermeasures were deployed. New scanning patterns pierced the radiation storm. But the damage had already been done. For the first time, a human dreadnought fell without taking an enemy ship with it. Its destruction echoed across the galaxy. Hope trembled again. On the Council worlds, fear returned. They are evolving, a Virelian elder said during another emergency meeting. If this continues, they will surpass even humanity. But humans were not frozen by fear. They responded. Shipyards around Earth, Mars, and Titan worked without rest. New armor layers were designed within hours. Shield frequencies rotated every minute. Artificial intelligence systems studied Devourer movement patterns. Humanity did what it always did in crisis. It adapted faster. Meanwhile, deep in Devourer territory, something massive began to move. Exploration drones captured blurry images before being destroyed. A structure. No. A ship. It was larger than anything seen before. Larger than a dreadnought. Its surface was covered in shifting plates that opened and closed like breathing metal. Energy readings around it bent space so violently that nearby stars flickered. Human analysts reached one conclusion. It was not a battleship. It was a command vessel. A mind at the center of the swarm. And it was heading toward the core systems. Admiral Kale watched the projections in silence. If that ship reaches populated space, an officer said carefully, entire sectors will fall. Kale nodded once. Then we stop it before it arrives. But our losses are rising, another officer warned. We may not survive a direct assault. Kale looked at the burning wreckage displayed on the tactical screen. Survival is not the objective, he said calmly. Victory is. Outside the viewports of the human fleet, repair drones moved between scarred hulls. Damaged ships returned to formation. Weapons powered up once more. The Devourers had learned from humanity. But they had made one mistake. Humans did not fear enemies who learned. They respected them. And when humans respected an enemy, they fought without mercy. Far beyond the outer colonies, the massive Devourer command vessel continued its silent approach. The final confrontation was coming. And this time, only one side would adapt fast enough to survive. The Devourer command vessel entered human space without slowing down. It did not sneak through shadows. It did not hide behind radiation storms. It moved openly, like a king walking into a battlefield. Every sensor in the sector detected it. It was massive. Larger than any dreadnought ever built. Its surface shifted constantly, black plates sliding over each other like living armor. Blue energy pulsed across its hull in slow waves, bending light around it. Behind it followed thousands of Devourer warships. A moving wall of extinction. Colonies in its path were evacuated when possible. Billions fled toward inner systems. But everyone knew the truth. If this ship was not stopped here, there would be nowhere left to run. The human fleet gathered near the edge of the Helios corridor, a narrow passage between two dense star clusters. It was the only path large enough for a force that size. Admiral Kale chose the battlefield carefully. If the Devourers wanted the core worlds, they had to pass through the corridor. And the corridor would become their grave. 200 human dreadnoughts formed the front line. Behind them, carriers and cruisers prepared fighter swarms. Mines were placed deep in the corridor. Hidden rail platforms were attached to nearby asteroids. Everything was ready. The Devourer fleet arrived like a storm. Without warning, the command vessel fired first. A beam unlike any seen before shot across space. It was not red. Not blue. It was pure white, surrounded by twisting gravity waves. The beam struck a human dreadnought. Its shields did not crack. They vanished instantly. Armor melted. Within seconds, the massive ship split apart. Shock spread through the human formation. That weapon ignores shields, an officer reported. Admiral Kale did not hesitate. Phase 2. All batteries, target the central hull. Human dreadnoughts unleashed everything. White energy cannons. Heavy rail slugs moving near light speed. Missile clouds that filled the corridor like metal rain. Explosions covered the command vessel's surface. For a moment, it seemed to stagger. Then sections of its hull opened. Hundreds of smaller attack craft poured out like insects from a nest. They swarmed toward the human line, moving faster than anything recorded before. Fighters launched to intercept. Space became chaos. Close-range battles erupted everywhere. Human pilots fought at impossible angles, weaving through energy beams. Cruisers were torn apart. Devourer ships exploded in violent bursts. But the command vessel kept advancing. Another white beam fired. Another dreadnought died. Activate the trap, Kale ordered. Hidden mines ignited. The corridor exploded with chain detonations. Entire sections of space turned into fire. Devourer warships were caught in the blast and shattered. Asteroid rail platforms fired from both sides, striking the command vessel's flanks. Deep scars appeared across its surface. For the first time, its forward movement slowed. Human dreadnoughts pushed forward together. All remaining ships focused fire on one damaged section near the ship's core. Energy levels on the Devourer vessel spiked wildly. Then something unexpected happened. It changed shape. Outer armor plates folded inward. The massive ship became more compact, more dense. Energy field strengthened around it. It was preparing for something. A final attack. Admiral Kale understood instantly. "It's going to fire through the entire corridor," he said. "If that beam hits the inner systems." He did not finish. Every human ship transmitted the same signal. No retreat. Dreadnoughts accelerated together. Instead of spreading out, they formed a tight wedge formation aimed directly at the command vessel. They would not avoid the beam. They would break the ship before it could fire. The Devourer vessel released its charge. White light built at its core. At the same moment, 20 human dreadnoughts rammed into its weakened hull at full speed. The impact shook space itself. The white beam fired. But it was unstable. Energy feedback tore through the Devourer ship from inside. Cracks spread across its surface like lightning. Human cannons continued firing at point-blank range. Then the command vessel split apart. A shockwave exploded outward, destroying nearby ships from both sides. When the light faded, the giant was gone. Broken. Drifting. Across the corridor, surviving Devourer ships paused. For the first time since the war began. They hesitated. And humanity was still standing. The explosion of the Devourer command vessel echoed across the corridor like the death of a god. Fragments of its massive hull drifted through space, glowing with fading energy. Human ships tumbled in the shockwave. Several dreadnoughts were reduced to broken metal. Fighters vanished in silent flashes. For a long moment, no one moved. Then something strange happened. The remaining Devourer ships did not attack. They did not retreat. They froze. Across human command channels, confusion spread. Scanners showed power fluctuations across the enemy fleet. Energy patterns that were once perfectly synchronized now flickered unevenly. "They've lost coordination," a systems officer reported. Admiral Kale stared at the readings. The command vessel had not just been a flagship. It had been the mind. Without it, the Devourer ships were still deadly, but no longer perfectly united. Some ships began firing wildly at human forces. Others turned in random directions. A few even collided with each other. The swarm was breaking. "Push forward," Kale ordered calmly. "Do not give them time to reorganize." The remaining human dreadnoughts advanced. They moved carefully now, targeting isolated Devourer ships one by one. Precision strikes replaced desperate volleys. Coordinated formations returned. The battle was still brutal. Human cruisers were torn apart at close range. Entire fighter squadrons were lost clearing paths through drifting wreckage. But this time, every destroyed Devourer ship stayed destroyed. There was no adaptation. No new tactics. No perfect counter. Hours passed. Then something even more unexpected happened. Several Devourer ships powered down. Their weapons dimmed. Their engines shut off. They simply drifted. It was not surrender. It was silence. Human boarding teams approached cautiously. Drones scanned the surface of the inactive vessels. No life signs were detected. No internal movement. Just endless corridors of dark metal and strange machinery. Inside one captured vessel, explorers found a core chamber. At its center floated a sphere of shifting light. Data streamed endlessly between small nodes across the walls. An artificial intelligence. Not biological. Not emotional. Pure purpose. It had been designed to expand, adapt, and eliminate threats. And humanity had become the first true threat it could not overcome. When the command vessel was destroyed, the central control network collapsed. Individual ships still functioned, but without higher coordination, their evolution slowed. They were no longer a single mind. They were fragments. Back in the corridor, the final Devourer ships attempted one last attack. It was uncoordinated and desperate. Human dreadnoughts crushed them quickly. And then, it was over. For the first time since the war began, no red mark spread across the galactic map. No new systems went dark. Silence returned to space. But this time, it was peaceful. Across the galaxy, messages flooded human channels. Gratitude. Relief. Awe. Worlds that once feared humanity now praised them as saviors. The Galactic Council requested immediate negotiations for renewed alliance. Admiral Kale listened to the messages in silence. He did not smile. The cost had been enormous. Dozens of dreadnoughts destroyed. Millions of human lives lost in the corridor. Victory had not been clean. But it had been decisive. Human engineers began studying captured Devourer technology. Defensive systems were upgraded. New monitoring networks were placed at the outer rim. Because humanity understood one truth better than anyone. The universe was vast. And threats would return. But now the galaxy knew something it had never known before. When darkness came to swallow the stars. When hope felt dead. When extinction seemed certain. Humanity would not run. Humanity would not kneel. They would build bigger ships. Stronger weapons. Smarter defenses. And they would stand in the path of annihilation without fear. In the depths of space, broken pieces of the Devourer fleet drifted like warning signs. The monsters who once erased worlds had been stopped. Not by ancient empires. Not by perfect peace. But by a species that refused to accept extinction. And from that day forward, whenever distant stars flickered or strange signals appeared at the edge of known space, one thought gave the galaxy comfort. If the darkness returns, the human dreadnoughts will be waiting.